Hey Siri, play my favorites.
Hey Google.
Alexa.
Hey Siri, Amanda.
Okay, Google, play the morning playlist.
Hey Siri, good morning.
Alexa, what's on the calendar today?
Hey Google, how's the traffic from El Baraka School to the airport?
Alexa, open the garage.
Okay, opening your garage door.
Hey
Google.
Then proceed with a voice command. You could say,
Remind me to pick up my dry cleaning tomorrow by 6 p.m.
Sure, I'll remind you tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Hey Google, give me driving directions to Chicago.
you can even use your voice to get directions, send a text, control certain vehicle functions, and more.
What's my day look like?
Another busy day today.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm not allowed to be frivolous.
Okay. Move my 4 o'clock today to tomorrow. Change my 11 a.m. to 2.
Okay, Marty, I scheduled it for today.
Is that Rick? Where's Rick?
Here's Rick.
No, it's not Rick.
Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology.
Bring up maps.
Stay connected with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto standard.
Okay, Google, turn on the hall lights.
Alexa, pair my Bluetooth speaker.
Okay, paired.
Alexa, it's time to reorder some paper towels.
Okay, order placed.
Alexa, ask Domino's to send me my last order.
Okay, order placed.
It's movie time.
Just set it up beside your bed, and it effortlessly senses motion and sound to keep track of how you're sleeping.
Alexa, good night.
Good night. Sleep tight.
Around the world, major efforts are underway to improve life in big cities. Entirely new cities have been designed to revolve around tech.
The concept of a smart city is based on the development of an urban area that uses different electronic techniques and sensors to promote efficient living. Its efficiency is meant to benefit organizations as well as its inhabitants. As technology continues to grow and innovation improving, smart cities are now the future. These areas will use the Internet of Things to effectively collect data in a real-time environment and using it quickly to develop low-cost solutions based on the available patterns. Once such cities are implemented, they are expected to run on ICT frameworks that depend on sensors and are connected to several dedicated networks of data centers, home appliances, and mobile devices, amongst others.
Walmart executive and billionaire reportedly is looking for 150,000 acres to build a new utopia.
The mission of Tolosa is to create a more equitable and sustainable future. That's our North Star, and that'll never change. What we're trying to do is combine sort of the best.
This undeveloped land could soon be transformed into a sprawling smart city with all the high-tech, cutting-edge gadgets you could ask for. A real estate investment firm owned by billionaire Bill Gates just bought the giant plot of land for $80 million with the hope of building a forward-thinking community called Belmont.
But we are building the world's first smart city based on blockchain technology. 68,000 acres. Roughly the size of Reno, and I'm told half the size of Prague. The governor of Nevada just recently deemed it.
So it turns out blockchain is creating a city. They actually announced this back in 2018 that they want to create a city, but now there's a Nevada bill that is being proposed that would allow tech companies to create governments for these cities that they're building. So imagine a completely privatized municipality. So if we just didn't think you could privatize anything and everything, now you can absolutely privatize everything. This is here's the article from usnews.com. It says Nevada bill will allow tech companies to create governments. Planned legislation to establish new business areas in Nevada would allow technology companies to effectively form separate local governments.
Life in China is largely conducted on smartphones. 1 billion people use WeChat, the equivalent of Facebook, Messenger, and PayPal, and much more combined into just one super app. And there are many more.
China is the best place for AI implementation today because the vast amount of data that's available in China. China has a lot more users than any other country, 3 to 4 times more than the US. There are 50 times more mobile payments than the US. There are 10 times more food deliveries, which serve as data to learn more about user behavior than the US. 300 times more shared bicycle rides. And each shared bicycle ride has all kinds of sensors submitting data up to the cloud. We're talking about maybe 10 times more data than the US. And AI is basically run on data and fueled by data. The more data, the better the AI works. More importantly than how brilliant the researcher is working on the problem. So in the age of AI, where data is the new oil, China is the new Saudi Arabia.
And access to all that data means that the deep learning algorithm can quickly predict behavior, like the creditworthiness of someone wanting a short-term loan.
Here is our application, and the customer can choose how many money they want to borrow and how long they want to borrow, and they can input their data here, and after that, you can just borrow very quickly.
The CEO shows us how quickly you can get a loan.
It has done.
It takes an average of 8 seconds.
It has passed to banks. Wow. Yeah, our job is finished.
In the 8 seconds, the algorithm has assessed 5,000 personal features from all your data.
5,000 features. That is related with the delinquency. When maybe the banks only use few, maybe 10 features when they are doing their risk management.
Processing millions of transactions, it'll dig up features that would never be apparent to a human loan officer. Like how confidently you type your loan application. Or, surprisingly, if you keep your cell phone battery charged.
It's very interesting. The battery of the phone is related with their delinquency rate. Someone who has much more lower battery, they get much more dangerous than others.
It's probably unfathomable to an American how a country can dramatically evolve itself from a copycat laggard to all of a sudden to nearly as good as the US in technology.
Like this facial recognition startup he invested in. Megvii was started by 3 young graduates in 2011. It's now a world leader in using AI to identify people.
It's pretty fast. For example, on the mobile device, we have timed the facial recognition speed. It's actually less than 100 milliseconds. So that's very, very fast. So 0.1 second that we'll be able to recognize you, even on a mobile device.
The company claims the system is better than any human at identifying people in its database. And for those who aren't, it can describe them. Like our director, what he's wearing, and a good guess at his age, missing it by only a few months.
We are the first one to really take facial recognition to commercial quality.
That's why in Beijing today you can pay for your KFC with a smile.
You know, it's not so surprising. We've seen the Chinese companies catching up to the U.S. in technology for a long time. And so if particular effort and attention is paid in a specific sector, it's not so surprising that they would surpass the rest of the world. And facial recognition is one of the first places we've seen that start to happen.
It's a technology prized by the government, like this program in Shenzhen to discourage jaywalking. Offenders are shamed in public, and with facial recognition, can be instantly fined. Critics warn that the government and some private companies have been building a national database from dozens of experimental social credit programs.
The government wants to integrate all these individual behaviors or corporations' records into some kind of a matrix and compute out a single number or set of number associated with an individual citizen, and using that to implement a incentive or punishment system.
A high social credit number can be rewarded with discounts on bus fares. A low number can lead to a travel ban. Some say it's very popular with the Chinese public that wants to punish bad behavior. Others see a future that rewards party loyalty and silences criticism.
Right now, there is no final system being implemented. And from those experiments, we already see the possibility of what this social credit system can do to individual. It's very powerful, Orwellian-like, and it's extremely troublesome in terms of civil liberty.
Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns computers. There's one in my house, one in my pocket, and one on my wrist. And fun fact, if they all broke at the same time, I'd die. More specifically, we're going to talk about the fact that we've all had unsettling moments when it became clear that our computer was monitoring our activities a little more closely than we might like.
After financial planner Rod Lorenz opened a new office, he used a credit card to buy baby wipes to clean the place. He says after picking up just one canister, he was shocked to be bombarded with targeted online ads for other baby wipes and more children's products, something this single guy around town says he's definitely not interested in, at least not now.
Yeah, it's true. Poor Rod got roped into the modern update of Hemingway's classic story, For Sale, Baby Shoes, Click Here. And look, of course Rod didn't want that shit. He was a man about town. He was only interested in three things: getting laid, getting paid, and rocking the hell out of some wraparound shades. But we have all found ourselves being targeted by ads for something oddly specific and thought, how on earth did they know to show me that? And tonight, we're going to talk about who makes that possible. Data brokers. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry encompassing everyone from credit reporting companies to these weird people-finding websites that pop up whenever you Google the name of your friend's sketchy new boyfriend, to these names that you may never have heard of. But what all these companies have in common is they collect your personal information and then resell or share it with others. As one expert puts it, they're the middlemen of surveillance capitalism.
Surveillance capitalism.
Surveillance capitalism.
Surveillance capitalism.
Called surveillance capitalism, and it is changing the way that we spend our money. But is this a good thing or is it a bad thing?
Thinking about like having a conversation, and if you have like Alexa, or if you have like certain things that like listen to you while you're talking, like maybe even possibly Siri. And then all of a sudden you'll go to Google and what you were talking about, like slick trick broadheads or some shit like that, will show up in your Google ads. You're like, what in the fuck?
Recordings from what was going on in our house.
Danielle says her Amazon device in her Portland home recorded a private conversation and sent that recording to a random contact, which happened to be the employee in Seattle.
The Roomba already comes camera equipped, but it's the mapping technology that could really benefit Amazon.
Now they can actually know the layout of your home and even products that are in your home to target you for further purchases of really anything, any kind of consumer goods.
That's right. Access to your floor plan. Need a bigger couch? How about a new rug? Not a bad business move.
How do hackers get control of our smart TVs?
They come in through the Wi-Fi because the web browser, people don't realize you need to protect.
Giving hackers easy access to your financial data.
And with that credit card information being on the device or connected to an account that you could access from that device, people's banking accounts are being hacked and compromised.
Hackers tapping into those home cameras that you have in your house and inviting hundreds of other people to live stream their abuse.
But Ring's terms of service warns users grant Ring permission to use and distribute the content for any purpose.
Amazon has agreements with 2,100 police departments all across the country. It gives them access to Ring video.
That the conversations that they have in their own home or what they choose to watch, this kind of data is really private.
Samsung's privacy policy telling consumers, please be aware that if your spoken words include personal or other information, they will be captured and transmitted to a third party.
Reports that smart TVs themselves are watching what you do and reporting the data back to the company that made the devices. So what kind of information are they using?
Well, just think about your phone and all of the important information that's available on your phone created by applications. So on your smart TV, there might be Netflix, there might be YouTube, and all of these applications, just like the apps on your phone, they talk to not just the device maker back home, but they talk to each other and they send information between each other. So much of that information is just as vulnerable as anything on your phone. And if it has your TV has a weak or non-existent password, all of that information is accessible by cyber attackers.
So conceivably, what could they be using this data for?
Well, for the same data, the same reason you might want to siphon information off of your phone, that's pretty useful not just to hackers, but to big data companies.
As for here in the US, individual states have tried to limit data brokers, but advocates say that what is really needed is a comprehensive federal privacy law governing them. This has been proposed for years now, but nothing has happened for a couple of key reasons. First, data brokers' spending on lobbying in 2020 rivaled that of Facebook and Google, but also politicians now famously build their campaigns on data obtained from brokers. Both parties regularly boast about how much they use data. And in fact, just listen to former RNC chair Reince Priebus openly bragging about it.
Everything about almost every potential voter in Georgia is known, and it's not even a joke. They know what beer they drink, what car they drive, how many kids they have, and all that data is used to target every single voter in Georgia.
It's true. Politicians rely on data to be able to target our interests with pinpoint precision.
Shoshana Zuboff, thank you very much for coming into the studio.
It's an honor. Thanks for having me.
There's a lot to talk about, so let's try and unpeel this onion
Yes,
as much as we can. Someone who was very kind about your book, and lots of people have been very kind about it, said that it makes us aware of the kind of things that we should be aware of but haven't been so far. What should we be aware of?
I think we should be aware of that the digital world that has formed itself around us and the road to a digital future that we're on right now is something that has been hijacked by what I regard as a rogue economic logic that I call, of course, surveillance capitalism. The surveillance capitalists have tried to get us to believe that their practices are the inevitable outgrowth of digital technologies. If we want digital, then we have to go along with their surveillance operations and the consequences of those operations.
And we're talking about Google, we're talking about Facebook.
Yes, Google and Facebook are the pioneers. Amazon and Microsoft have piled on. But really, over the last 20 years, surveillance capitalism, it first became the default economic model in the tech sector, but now we see it moving through the normal economy. You know, whether you look at insurance, education, healthcare, retail, real estate, even right back into manufacturing and basic services, we're seeing companies all over the economy now chasing what they perceive to be as that magical surveillance dividend. So here's how surveillance capitalism works, just in brief. You know, it begins with these companies unilaterally claiming our private human experience as their free source of raw material. So what do they do with that raw material? They lift out of it the rich predictive signals in our behavior, and they turn that into data. These behavioral data, you can think of it as a complex set of pipes, supply chains. So the behavioral data now is scraped from our experience, it goes into the supply chains, then it gets tipped onto the conveyor belts and right into the new factories. What happens in those factories? Well, that's where we talk about things like artificial intelligence, machine intelligence. The new factories are computational. What comes out the other end of the factory? Well, we always know factories make products. So what's coming out of these factories are products that predict our behavior. They are computational products that predict what we will do soon and later. And they're not, even though they are about us, they're not for us. They're not sold to us. They're not meant to enhance our own lives. They're sold to business customers who want a leg up on what we're going to do in the future. So here's an example. We know that, for example, right now in London, there's a lot of discussion about the CCTV cameras everywhere who are taking everybody's faces without their knowledge, therefore without their permission and so on. And there's a lot of controversy about this. But what everyone needs to know is that the tech companies, the private sphere, has fought for the right to take our faces from any kind of public space, to take our faces off the web.
Have they got that right?
They have, well, certainly in the US, they have that right. They have unilaterally claimed the right, and no government in the US, all during the years of the Obama administration, and since then, no government has obstructed that right. So anywhere that you are in a public space, certainly in the US, the tech companies can take your face. Why do they want your face so badly? Well, first of all, obviously, it's very important to know who's doing what and where they're going and where they are and so forth. But there are even deeper reasons. There are many, many muscles in the face, and those muscles can combine into hundreds of different kinds of gestures. They do facial recognition analysis to compute those gestures because those gestures predict emotion. And once they know what you're feeling, that becomes one of the most powerful predictors of your behavior. Now, that kind of behavioral insight is sold to business customers. So, for example, we know about a Facebook document that was leaked to the press in Australia, written by Facebook executives to their Australian and New Zealand business customers. And what do they sell them in this document? They say, we have so much detailed data on behavior and emotion from 6.4 million young, teenage, and young adult people who live in New Zealand and Australia. And through this intense depth and range of data, we know their emotional cycles through every day and through the week. But is the findings of researchers who have, academic researchers indeed, who have been developing these very capabilities literally since the year 2008, 2009, 2010, where these kinds of data capture, data analysis translating into emotional and behavioral insights that predict future behavior. We know that these capabilities exist and have been proven.
So this facial recognition technology that you talk about goes way beyond what Cambridge Analytica was trying to do, for instance, doesn't it?
Well, Cambridge Analytica was, as you know, a small firm. We're still trying to figure out exactly what it did do. But even those things we know, what it suggests is that this little firm was a parasite. And it was the parasite on a much larger host. Face value, it looks like that much larger host was Facebook. But what we know is that Facebook is a pioneer surveillance capitalist. Essentially, 97% of Facebook's revenues come from its online targeted advertising markets, which are wholly owned and operated in this surveillance capitalist economic logic. So Cambridge Analytica is a parasite on the host of surveillance capitalism. All of its mechanisms and methods, all of its data, all derive from surveillance capitalism, simply pivoting those operations a few degrees from trying to acquire guaranteed commercial outcomes, achieving guaranteed commercial outcomes for business customers, to instead trying to achieve guaranteed political outcomes for a political customer, if you will, in this case, a secretive software billionaire who owned that company and was using it to manipulate the public for his political aims.
You write, a global architecture of behavior modification threatens human nature in the 21st century. Explain.
One of the things that surveillance capitalists learned is that the most powerful predictions of human behavior come from actually intervening in our behavior, touching our behavior, to nudge, to influence, to tune, to herd our behavior toward its commercial outcomes. And what this has done is made them take hold of the digital milieu, all of the devices, beginning with our phones and our laptops, but the sensors, the facial recognition, the smart dishwasher, the smart television set, the smart car, the smart city. All of this digital infrastructure now has been taken by surveillance capitalism as a way to nudge and tune and herd our behavior toward its guaranteed outcomes. It does this with subliminal cues. It's a highly scientific process. It does this in ways that it brags about are always outside of our awareness, so that we have no right of combat, we cannot resist, we cannot say no, and we cannot exit. So this is what I call a global means of behavioral modification, where essentially this great digital architecture that we've built in order to be an emancipatory and life-giving process for us and help us in our lives has now become commandeered by surveillance capitalism as a means to modify our behavior toward its commercial ends, which is a direct assault on human autonomy, a direct assault on our decision rights, a direct assault on the whole notion of individual sovereignty. Back in the 1970s, there was a Senate committee that included people like Edward Kennedy and Sam Ervin. These folks met for many months, and they decided that behavioral modification was a pernicious action, that it was a complete defiance of democratic principles. And they decided that no federal money would fund any kind of program based on behavioral modification in prisons, in schools, and hospitals. Today, the year 2019, we've just spent the last 2 decades where, as democracy slept, the private sector, under the aegis of surveillance capitalism, has been able to command the digital to create a literally ubiquitous means of behavioral modification without anybody saying no, and without most of us even noticing or understanding what has occurred. These companies take control of 21st century society, sporting asymmetries of knowledge unlike anything the world has seen. Asymmetries of knowledge. They know so much about us. We know so little about them. We do not know about us what they know about us. They have so much knowledge that is from us, but that knowledge is not for us. But they go beyond that to influence and modify our behavior at the scale of populations. What is this power? This power to actually influence populations, unauthorized, self-regulated, without democracy's oversight, without democracy's participation, without our knowledge. Systems that are specifically engineered to keep us in ignorance. Systems that are specifically engineered and celebrated for their ability to bypass our awareness. Ergo, my friends, surveillance capitalism.
What is a model citizen?
Well, I'm home.
How was work today, honey?
It was a delight.
Well, families of Autodale, a model citizen is a providing father. A model citizen is a caring mother, all in service of a scrappy young boy or girl. A model child raised by a model family to become a model citizen of their own. For Autodale is hardly automatic. You and your families are the gears that keep our engines turning and turning. And let us hope that this perfect cycle never ends.
Greetings, Mr. and Mrs. Robinson. Daily check. How are we doing tonight? Well, work was a delight.
Oh, dinner was just wonderful.
And Junior's just been tucked in. Splendid! Taking after his father, I'd hope. Seems everything's in order.
Oh, leaving so soon.
Wouldn't care to join my lovely lady for a dance, would you, Joe? One day, Mrs. Robinson. Not today.
Aww.
You disappointed the lady, Joe. Deepest apologies, Robinson family. But duty calls. It would seem the cycle never ends.
Time comes when your model child is grown up and is ready to start a model family of their own. A true model citizen knows that their duties are finished and their course is run.
I think it's time.
I was kind of hoping that the cycle would never end.
So proud of him.
We did good. You did indeed, Robinsons. True model citizens. Thank you, Joe. Deepest apologies, Robinsons. Duty calls. I'm afraid Autodale is hardly automatic. And your families are what keep our engines turning and turning. Let us hope that this perfect cycle never ends.